Hey guys, defined the beginning of week 3, so if you're still with us, that's awesome. Congratulations. The name of this week is Vital Signs. Just to give you the fill-ins, if you have a manual on page 59, the first statement, it says identity is tied very closely to your level of intimacy with the Father. The next line, the more you know him, the more clear view you will have of yourself. Next line, intimacy breeds a more clear view of your identity. What makes it difficult for you to sustain an abiding relationship with Jesus? She's asking you that. The next line, we make time for whatever our priorities are, right? We do the things that are the most important. How can you build a stronger friendship with Jesus starting right now? And what does practicing the presence of God look like for you? I wrote in our discussion in class, I wrote on my own, avoid coming to God out of guilt or fear. Practice the presence of God. Understand better the relationship between the vine and the branch. We talked a lot about that. And prioritize prayer. The word meno, she talks about in the video segment. Meno means to remain, to stay over a lifetime, not just for a moment. And then she also gives us the event. You guys should write this down. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 18, and John 15, verses 4 through 7. And I wrote in quotes, abide in me. If you have time and you want, Google the definition of the word abide. It's more than just like hang out with or stay, okay? And so she gets into she talks about how she homeschooled her kids and the way that she tested them, and how it was a little bit more relaxed, but that the comparison between like a written test that's given by a proctor or a teacher versus like a self-test, right? And specifically on page 62, asks some really soul-searching questions about where we stand in our relationship with the Lord. What is going on in us, and how is that bearing fruit in respect to our relationship with Christ? And so I would strongly encourage you to do this. It's on page 62. And just remember, like we talked about before, this isn't, to catch you or to make you feel bad. It's rated, 1 to 10. 1 is at the bottom end of the spectrum. 10 is like, yeah. If you're on your own going through this and you're down at the bottom, it's just a way of soul searching and determining where we go from, right? Where we need to work on, where maybe we're doing a good job, and then maybe some places where we could improve. And that's a good thing, because if we don't ever ask and we don't ever dig into it, then we don't ever really know. So that's a good thing, okay? And I underlined several places here. The better you know him, meaning the Lord, the more you actually know yourself. When your own new identity in Christ starts growing, you are transformed. It reveals what's now possible for you, the potential in you. It's beautiful and it's powerful. And so week 3, day 1, Colossians 3:10, you are being renewed in knowledge according to the image of your Creator. And she talks very specifically about relationship with friends. And we know this, right? We have people that we work with, that we speak to maybe superficially. So in an office setting, right? You kind of do a drive-by by the front desk. Hey, how are y'all? Everybody's friendly. You may know their name, you may not. But then, you move on to whatever you have to get done for the rest of the day. And if people were to ask you about, oh yeah, I know them, but you don't know them, right? And if you compare that to, like, say, your best friend, who knows, your birthday, what your favorite color is, what your favorite food is. She knows some funny things about you, and she knows some things about you that other people don't know. And you know the same the other way around, right? And so that's the difference between, knowing someone and having a relationship with them, right? And that's really what we want with the Lord. Like, we want relationship, but relationship doesn't come if we treat it like we do, like I said, the front desk. You walk by and you're like, hey, and you give them 30 seconds a day, and it's very, very superficial. If that's the way you treat it, then that is what you will get from it, right? You will get a superficial benefit from it. So like momentary, pump or what have you, but then that's it. And that's not the way that's not the relationship that the Lord wants with us. And that's not the type of relationship that we should desire with the Lord. And so how do we do that? Well, I mean, we have to spend time, right? She talked about in the beginning, practice the presence of God. Like, that I'm going to get to that. Okay. So, I want to read to you guys from the Word, John chapter 14, starting at verse 1. Don't let your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If not, I would have told you. I'm going away to prepare a place for you. If I go away and prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, so that where I am, you may be also. You know the way to where I am going. Lord, Thomas said, we don't know where you're going. How can we know the way? And Jesus told them, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you know me, you will also know my Father. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. And this is the part you want to pay attention to. Lord, said Philip, who's a disciple, one of the first ones to be called, right? Show us the Father, and that's enough for us. In verse 9, Jesus said to him, have I been among you all this time, and you do not know me, Philip? The one who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Don't you believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words I speak to you, I do not speak on my own. The Father who lives in me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. Otherwise, believe because of the works themselves. So, Philip has been hanging around with Jesus almost since the beginning, right? One of the first that was called of the disciples. And yet here we are in Jesus's farewell discourse, and Philip is still like not gotten it, right? And so Jesus, have I been among you all this time and you do not know me, Philip? So you have to ask yourself, well, was Philip's relationship with the Lord superficial? Well, Jesus' relationship with them wasn't, but what was Philip doing? Like, come on, right? And so she talks about the difference between meeting someone and knowing someone. Two different things. Knowing them takes spending time with them. And so I would encourage you guys to read in 1 John. She talks about how that's where we're going to be throughout this week. So we're going to live this week, and she says we're going to learn more of what it means to know him, since your spiritual identity as a young godly woman is inextricably tied to who your Father is. Knowing him better and more closely should be our continual goal. I love this little tidbit. John actually wrote 5 books of the 27 in the New Testament. The book of John, and then 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, and Revelation. So some little biblical knowledge for you there. Last thing she says is, first you know him through salvation, then you start to know him through ongoing fellowship, and in knowing him better each day, you move toward understanding, accepting, and living out your God-given identity and potential. A brother in Christ, Clifton Nobles, he's a local pastor here in the CSRA, and does some just really, I love it. I love when he speaks, you can tell he's on fire for the Lord. And literally, like a few days ago, he was talking about how we can, if we're not used to practicing the presence of God, in so many words, he had a suggestion, which I think is great. And so I'm just sharing this with you. This is not mine. He said it's a 10-10-10 that he was talking about. So it's 30 minutes a day. So you commit to 30 minutes a day. And it's 10 minutes in the Word, 10 minutes in worship, 10 minutes in prayer, right? And so if you're you know, wherever you're starting from, if that's not something that's comfortable for you, and my husband and I were talking about this the other day. I'm like, well, I said, you know, I love the concept. I love the commitment of really making the Lord like an incredible priority and saying, I'm going to give you time, right? Because that really is our most valuable commodity, right? Because you can't buy it, you can't get it back. And so like when you give something your time, like, right, that's a big deal. So, you know, if you're not used to that, initially, like what I was saying is that when I was talking to my husband, I'm like, yeah, I said, well, you know, like we pray and then we read, we get some devotions here and there. But I mean, have you ever prayed on the regular for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes at a time? And if you haven't, you can see how thinking about that would be, maybe it would be a little bit uncomfortable, right? You're like, well, you know, God, I love you and I honor you. God, thank you for da-da-da-da. God, I need this. In Jesus' name, amen. Right? Like it's quick and it's in, it's out. But if we're practicing relationship, and relationship takes time, and it takes sharing, and it takes thought, well then, wouldn't it make sense that if you're just rushing into the presence of God and then rushing out, well then, like, how do you expect the Spirit to cultivate within yourself if you're constantly running? And I'm speaking to myself because I am always like 90 to nothing. I've always got 50,000 things going through my head and 50,000 more that need to get done. But if we are in the process of prioritizing our relationship with the Lord as number one before all that other stuff, well, then great. If you haven't, it's okay, but let's start, right? So, I don't know, maybe try it. I've been doing it and it's awesome. It's awesome. Try that. You know, 10 minutes in the Word, 10 minutes in worship, 10 minutes in prayer. Take your time. Listen, give yourself an opportunity to just get quiet. To really like slow it down. Invite the present, practice abiding. Give the Spirit room to move, and then wait. Listen. Don't be in such a hurry to rush to the next thing that you miss out on what the Lord is trying to tell you or trying to show you. I know that when I had to self-examine about how fast I was going, and when I slowed down and I gave God permission and I gave him the time that he deserved all along, my walk changed, my heart changed, and he drew me near to himself. And you know, that's what we were made for. We were made to worship. We were made to love him more because he loved us first, right? So I just encourage you guys to do that. Just know that you're prayed for, and you're loved the most by the one that created you fearfully and wonderfully. You guys have a great day.